Going to go ahead and get started. So thank you once again for joining us for today's webinar on introducing FreePBX 17, installing and migrating. Today's agenda is going to be quite simple. I'm joined today by what we're calling the OS crew. We've even got a new member of our crew with us today. My name is Michael White. I am the Vice President of Open Source here at Sangoma Technologies. Quick and easy, what I do around here, it's my job to, help businesses grow with the use of open source products from Sangoma. I'm joined by Lauren Gates, who will be presenting today. Lauren, how you doing?
I am well. Thank you everyone for joining.
And I'm also joined by Alvita Crespo. Alvita, if you could just share some information about what you do here.
Hey everyone, I do product marketing for open source and other products at Sangoma. I've been part of the open source world for a while now. Nice having
And
you.
thanks. Always a pleasure, Alvita. And last but not least, we have the newest member of the team, Jenny Lopez. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. Similar to Elvita, I am on the channel marketing team and I will be supporting open source as well. So excited to be here and excited to hear what we're about to see.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Without further ado, we'll jump right in. I did have one quick message from the sales front. Set your calendars for tomorrow. The accountants weren't looking, so we took full advantage of that at the end of our fiscal year. And feel free to jump in and check out a commercial module discount of 15% off, and that includes all bundles and all commercial modules, and that's for one day only tomorrow. You'll want to check out using that Tropical Tango code, but thank you very much for checking that out as well. From there, we're going to talk a little bit about what's new in 17, and I'm going to hand this over to Lauren Gates at this time. Lauren, how you doing?
Good. Thanks, Mike. So my name is Lauren. I am currently serving as a project manager for FreePBX, but I'm a longtime member of the FreePBX and Asterisk communities, so going back more than a lot more than a decade, which I find shocking since the time seems to go by so quickly. Today's focus
4 years for us.
It is. Today's focus is on FreePBX 17. So if I expect most people on the call are aware that we are right on the cusp of releasing FreePBX 17 as a GA version. Yesterday, we published a blog announcing RC1, Release Candidate 1, after a fairly successful beta period these last several months. I want to just quickly go through what is new and exciting in 17. First and foremost, FreePBX 17 is currently compliant with PHP 8.2. This is a big one. There was a push to a version 7 back on FreePBX 16, which was also a major undertaking. The next major increment of PHP is now version 8, and 8.2 is essentially finished. We are not ready yet to go to 8.3, but provided you're not running commercial modules, it is expected to largely work. If anyone is in the process of testing open source stuff on PHP 8.3, they're welcome to share their findings with issues and fixes on GitHub. But officially, we support 8.2. Also new in 17, we are transitioning from the asterisk macro to Gosub. So the app macro application is gone completely in asterisk 21. So asterisk 21 was released last fall. We've had a long notice that the change was coming, and it has taken a while for FreePBX to completely revise our generated Dialplan to eliminate reliance on asterisk macros. So that is complete in 17. In addition, we are completely upgrading all the front-end libraries as well as other dependencies, notably Node.js. But as we're staying as current as is practical for these dependencies and libraries. Anyone who has gone through and tried to install third-party applications or modules on a FreePBX distro system in the past has occasionally been stymied by the lack of current Node.js support. So that is resolved. I just ran an install yesterday. Node.js version is 18.19, which is newer than what we were testing with even as recently as a month or two ago in the beta version. And also a major shift in project philosophy is now supporting Debian 12. So of course, FreePBX has always or largely been available on all Linux versions, but as a project, we only ever tested and distributed a distro based on CentOS. So that arrangement has come to an end. Starting in 17, the official supported operating system for FreePBX is Debian, and we're starting with Debian 12. Most of the Debian support comes completely upstream from the Debian project. We add a few of our own services and systems and services in order to support FreePBX. And installing the system means running the installation script on a Debian install as opposed to downloading and running from an ISO that Sangoma publishes for FreePBX. So this brings us a number of advantages, most notably that any system that you can install Debian 12 on, any VM, any hardware, will likely support FreePBX. And there are some limitations with regard to certain hardware platforms, but for the most part, that's generally the case. As well as we get full advantage of all the upstream reliance on security updates as well as the update infrastructure from Debian. So that is it in a nutshell. The vast majority of the improvements that come in 17 are foundational. There's a small number of features and tweaks throughout the GUI, but the real strength of 17 is entirely in the foundations, from operating system to libraries to support for asterisk, current asterisk version, etc. So Mike, we'll just jump to the next slide. So I presume most viewing this will be aware, but in case you're not, Asterisk for a very long time now has had two separate independent SIP drivers. The old original Chan SIP driver and its replacement Chan PJSIP. Chan PJSIP is not new, but we refer to it as new in that it has somewhat recently been added to FreePBX as far as full support. Starting in FreePBX 16, we disabled Chan SIP by default on install and have been recommending for a while to standardize on Chan PJSIP. Well, the day has finally come. Starting last fall with asterisk 21, there is no longer any support in asterisk 21 for Chan SIP. And a stock FreePBX 17 install will have 21 by default. So generally, going forward from 17, your options for Chan SIP are limited. We are expecting everyone to embrace the Chan PJSIP revolution. And in doing so, you will ensure that you have good forward support, down the road in later versions of both Asterisk and FreePBX. We've added some nice features in the restore module, backup and restore module. So when you're doing a restore on a FreePBX 17 and you are running a version of Asterisk that does not support ChenSIP, then the restore module will auto convert anything it finds from ChenSIP to PJSIP. We've had these utilities in FreePBX now for a while for the extension side of things. So extension conversion is expected to work just fine. It's been vetted for a long time. Your extensions will almost certainly work exactly as they always have if they're restored on a 17 system and converted automatically. However, there is, of course, an enormous variation of SIP providers and SIP settings. And so those auto-converted trunks that relied initially on ChenSIP, when they get converted to PJSIP, they are very certainly going to require some testing and potentially tweaking on your part as far as your administrator work goes. So if you've already done the change completely, trunks and extensions to PJSIP, there's nothing really to worry about here. If you haven't, and you're converting from a backup tarball that includes ChenSIP devices and settings, then those will be auto-converted. And in doing so, there may be some cleanup work post-restore that you'll want to jump on and to ensure that things continue to work the way they always have. And one final note is that you can configure FreePBX 16 with ChenSIP support. And again, I will iterate, it is strongly discouraged. It is long past the time for all FreePBX and Asterisk users to have phased out ChenSIP entirely. And there's a likelihood, maybe even a strong likelihood, that PJSIP will not be supported in future FreePBX versions. There is also the reality that ChenSIP will not have any feature improvements or any work done to it going forward either. So anything that involves new features or new supports in FreePBX going forward will only be applied to PJSIP extensions and trunks. Let us jump to the next slide. Quick word about the Asterisk macro and Gosub. So we've had noticed for quite a while that the Asterisk project has deprecated app macro and that its functionality and more was completely replaced by app Gosub. Starting in Asterisk 21, again, macro is gone. So we've had to update completely the FreePBX generated Dialplan and to eliminate macros, which also means that anyone who does Dialplan anyone who does Dialplan customization in FreePBX will also need to go through any Dialplan customizations they do and use and be sure you're ready for Asterisk 21. So here's a quick example displayed on this slide here. There are a number of Dialplan hooks in FreePBX that are placed strategically for anyone with the interest to do so can hook their own custom Dialplan in the FreePBX call flow. If you don't know what any of this is, you can just file this nugget away saying that it is possible to do Dialplan customization and run your own Dialplan code. Visit this in the future if you see a use for. If you do know what this is, know that in the top example here where you see legacy Dialplan, that the Dialplan macros were called with the macro application. You would write your own macro and the final line in the macro would end with the macro exit. So in FreePBX 17 and going forward, we retain the same context names for all of the Dialplan hooks, but instead of referencing these hooks via the macro application, you would do so via Gosub. and it's almost exactly the same. You substitute the Gosub in place of the macro name. You would put the full context name starting with the word macro, comma S, comma 1, and then you would write your Dialplan Gosubs now using the named context as shown. And instead of using the macro exit application, you would end your custom Dialplan with the word return. Don't want to go into a whole lot of detail here. Suffice it to say that there is a minimal amount of work here required for anyone doing customization. So if this is not crystal clear, get in touch with the project. I have not done it yet. My intent was to get some wiki resources up on the FreePBX wiki to explain this minor change. You always have the option, of course, to open conversations in the FreePBX community forum just to make sure you're on the right track. But otherwise, I think we'll just race along to the next slide, please, Mike. As I've stated in previous webinars and in blog posts in the last several months, the FreePBX 17 wiki is completely moved over from its old home and up and running at sangomakb.atlassian.net. The old freepbx.org, that was wiki.freepbx.org, will redirect to that space as well. We have a number of pages at this location, FreePBX 17, where you can get current release versions and details. You can get the installation instructions, which we'll walk through today. We have a page there that shows the current status of engineering QA as far as moving through the individual modules for the system. And there's a few 17 specific info pages, such as how to set up a system to support CentOS. Next slide, please. Again, as shared in blog posts over the last several months, as well as probably in webinars, the official development home of FreePBX is at github.com/freepbx. So all open source ticketing is done there. We have a means of reporting security issues if the need arises. You can look at and browse the entire open source code base for all versions. And if you wish to formally contribute code or modules or anything to the project, you would do that at that URL on GitHub. In addition to the official core modules on the /FreePBX, we have the community supported contributed modules, and that is at github.com/FreePBX-contributed modules. There you will find such useful modules such as the dynamic routes module contributed some years ago to the project, as well as the more recently contributed allow list module. So it is where the development work and issues for those community supported modules are centralized at the other project. Next slide. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to walk through an installation of 17. So next slide, please, Mike. So the official wiki page as linked here. You can see this in the notes that are distributed later, or you can just browse to the FreePBX wiki, search for FreePBX 17, and you'll get the result. It is a very simple process, summarized very quickly. You start with a fresh install of Debian 12. You can do that easily enough with pretty much any cloud provider. Launch a VM with Debian 12. Doesn't need to be a particularly powerful system. The minimal installs that I'm walking through today cost a few dollars a month. And for testing purposes, that is perfectly fine. you log into the Debian system as root, and how you accomplish that will vary a little bit depending on how you set up your system. But you can consult whatever documentation that comes with the Debian launch as part of that. And you would run a few simple bash commands, which I've outlined below. But obviously, there's no need to memorize those because those are documented in the wiki and on GitHub. So what I'm going to do, I think, is maybe before we launch into, we'll have some downtime as we watch the installation routine. At that point, we'll take some questions. So if you haven't already discovered, you can ask questions in this seminar software. Just click the appropriate button, pose your questions, and when we get a little bit of downtime through this, we'll start to address those. Disable my camera, and I need to take control to share my screen. Share my screen. I'm going to do entire screen. I should see I'm going to start with this one. So this is a fresh Debian 12 install that I set up fairly recently, specifically for this purpose. I'm going to browse to wiki.freepbx.org, and you'll note that it instantly redirects me to the FreePBX wiki's new location. I'm going to search for FreePBX 17, and one of the options here is FreePBX 17 installation. There's a lot of information here. I suggest anyone who wants to go through this, please do so. But it's essentially 3 simple commands. We log in as root and we cd temp, then we get this long URL here, which I'm going to copy to clipboard, browse back to here. I'm going to cd/tmp. I'm going to paste that command, double get the ls, and then I am going to bash sng, and that is the installation script. We'll see that these are time stamped. It is now 1523 according to this system. That's universal time zone. I think that is expected to take something like 10 or 12 minutes. So while we wait for that to run, let us view some questions here.
And Lauren, we've teed some of those up there for you as assigned.
Oh my goodness, I've been sort of ignoring this window for a while. We have a lot.
We've been doing a good job of answering them as they go
All
along.
right.
But yes, keep it up. Don't let Lauren discourage you. We want your questions. This is community
So
engagement
I'm browsing the questions now. I assume everyone still sees that green text window scrolling. Is that correct?
Correct.
So we have a question here. Any equivalent to SE Linux with Debian? So standard instructions for installing FreePBX have historically always been disable SE Linux. I don't think that has changed. There is, as far as I know, we don't have any near-term task in engineering to examine SE Linux support, but it's not off the table entirely. If it's the type of thing that would probably make a good discussion item in the FreePBX forum if you want to raise that, Jonathan, independently, or look for any current discussions. I don't think it's been brought up recently, but now with the move to the new system, it's probably time to revisit some of those assumptions. We have someone saying there is no audio. I assume that's an isolated issue. Yeah, it looks like, yeah. So we have a question from Carlos, who is asking for a release of a distro like we did in the past. And I'm going to guess that by distro, they mean an ISO. And the short answer to that is not likely. What we're walking through today is essentially identical to what one might have gotten in the past by means of an ISO. Instead of publishing a bootable ISO that you can take a disk or a USB drive or something like that, and setting up the system, instead of doing that, you would do the exact same thing with a stock Debian 12 install. Run 2 or 3 bash commands, and then you get right where you're started. So I would say never, but it is not a project priority now to publish an ISO for this. And if we were to do that, it is not likely to be republished on a regular schedule to incorporate updates in Debian as they come out. Yes, you would need to adjust your workflows accordingly based on that reality.
One of the quick questions that we've gotten a lot of questions about the webinar itself. We will be posting this link to YouTube as well as a PDF file for the actual slide deck itself. So stay tuned for that.
Say we got a question here from Jeffrey who says PJSIP will not be supported. Did you mean ChanZip? Obviously, I misspoke if I said that. Yes, PJSIP is supported by default out of the gate on a fresh install. And actually, ChanZip is also supported. It just requires a little bit of config of the base system install before you continue, and that is outlined in the wiki for anyone who needs it. And I will say again, please stop talking about ChanZip. If you need it, you need it, but know that its days of being supported either in FreePBX or Asterisk are numbered. Yes, apparently I did misspeak and said PJSIP is not supported. It is ChanZip that is not supported by default. I see the slide says PJSIP is not supported, so that's a typo on the slide. I'll revisit that before we release the slides in the future. We have an ask about FOP2 from Mike, if anyone has tested FOP2 yet. And I am going to say we, of course, at the FreePBX project don't test for that. And I'm not aware of any efforts in that regard, but that is an excellent question for the FreePBX community forum or for the FOP2 forums. So you can please raise that conversation there. We have a question from Mark, who has FreePBX 16 running in a VM on a Win16 2016 server. How do I handle my purchase system admin module? Can I keep the same ID? All right, so yeah, let's talk a little bit about licensing. It's not a primary focus of today, but we have time to address it. So when you buy commercial modules from Sangoma to apply to your FreePBX system, they are licensed for the deployment ID of the system. And the deployment ID can be moved from system to system. And if you do move it, the licensing will follow that deployment ID. So if you currently have a 16 system or any version of a system that has licensed commercial modules and you want to move to 17, then there is a procedure outlined in the wiki. Wiki.freepbx.org will get you there. Just search for moving deployment ID and you will find a list of instructions there. So you can move the deployment ID to the new system. It will disable the deployment ID on the old system so that your licensing will stop working there and that your license modules will work in the new location. We don't allow an infinite number of deployment moves. So if you've exhausted your deployment moves, you can request one through support. And we're currently investigating a solution for portals so that we can we can allow anyone who is already there exhausted their moves to continue to move forward with 17. I have nothing really further to announce on that, but we'll probably release some information on that in social media in the coming week or two.
And I did just drop a link to the group in there about moving deployment ID to the wiki space.
Okay.
So check that out.
So we have Dave asking if he already missed it, when is the install script going to be production? So we are near, we have projected a GA release, general availability, in June, and there is precious little left of June at this point. We released a release candidate 1 yesterday. We're probably going to do one more release candidate. So I will say that it probably will not happen as we sit here today in June, as that is essentially, 3 more business days. But we can expect to see a GA release of 17 very soon in the coming week or two. There will probably be one more release candidate, and then after that, a GA release. So I don't know if you'll accept really soon now as a when answer, but that's what I'm prepared to commit to right now today. Upgrade path for 14 to 17. So there's a question here from Kevin. We'll cover that here as we go forward. But essentially, in order to upgrade from any version of FreePBX to 17, since all previous versions are completely on a different Linux system, the supported way forward is to take a backup of the old system and restore that backup on the new system. And for several versions now, going back years, FreePBX has supported legacy backups. So it is expected that on backups taken from systems as old as, say, FreePBX 10 or 2.10, as it was called back then, are expected to be restorable on a 17 system. Of course, as you go further and further back, it is becoming increasingly less common for those systems to exist. And so those are the types of things that are not tested exhaustively. So it's the type of thing you probably want to give a test on in a temporary location just to make sure things work as expected. But generally, any backup taken from any current system or last several versions is restorable on 17. We have a question here from Mattis on provisioning for system sizes, cores, memory disks. That's well beyond scope of what I'm prepared to discuss here today, but that's the type of thing that is handled in the FreePBX forum. Or if you're interested in buying a system course, you can touch with sales. But if you're prepared to detail how many extensions, users, and what features you intend to use, how much recorded CDRs and call recordings you want to store at any given time, we can come up with a decent guess at that based on the information you provide in the FreePBX forum. A question here from Kevin asking about PBExact. This is sort of a piggyback to what I talked about earlier about licensing. If the FreePBX deployment ID is designated as PBExact, then it will be then the resulting system will be a PBExact system with all the licensing that goes with it. And to the instructions for moving deployment IDs are the same, whether it's FreePBX or PBExact. I will note that we are releasing FreePBX 17 and talking about FreePBX 17 right now. We expect PBExact 17 to follow quite shortly, another month or so. There's a little bit of additional work required for the various different skins and things that PBExact uses, as well as the different product wizards. So we'll watch for that announcement, but it will largely work, I think, if you use PBExact today, but not strongly recommended quite yet for production. We have a question here from Walter with regard to an AI module for FreePBX. You can say, yes, we do have an AI module on the roadmap for FreePBX. So that will probably be the next major announcement you hear as far as launching commercial modules with FreePBX. I don't have an ETA to share that information yet, but it is imminent.
To that note, Lauren, we also have some great AI content from AstraCon. Elvita had posted all the videos from that event, and go back, check out the Asterisk team if you're looking for some good information on what we're doing with AI and what the future holds for AI at Sangoma with Asterisk and FreePBX. Check out some of the stuff that our Asterisk team did in AstraCon webinars.
Thanks, Mike. I'm having a hard job keeping these questions in order here, so I fear I may have skipped over some. At some point, I'll go back through these in detail here. We have a question here from Dave, whether we have IPv6 support in 17. Initially, IPv6 support was not a priority, and in fact, the install script disabled IPv6. I believe that is no longer the case, that we are now, if it's not finished yet, it is in progress to continue with that to have the IPv6 interface at least running on FreePBX 17. You will not see good solid GUI support yet, but that is sort of the next major technical hurdle to deal with going forward. Question from Jonathan, will FreePBX need to run as root? And I say I should have pointed that out as part of my introduction. So the installation script runs as root, and to do that easily, you can log in as a root user or use sudo. After that, most of the services, say most, I think I'm safe in saying all of the services run as the asterisk user, not as root. So I think that answers your question. Is FreePBX itself or its ancillary services do not run as root, but root is required for the installation. Chris asking about an in-place upgrade to 16 to 17. That is not possible, as I said, due to the differences in the base OS. Philip is asking for the link for the wiki. Wiki.freepbx.org will get you to the current supported wiki at sangomakb.atlassian.net. That was more confusing than it needed to be. Wiki.freepbx.org is the one that's easy to remember. Another question about upgrading 14. Someone said, yeah, it was a question from Patrick, said he only see 2 questions. It's the questions are not necessarily public. I'm seeing a lot more than 2. So that is
Quite
the
a bit
reason
more.
for that. There's so many that it's actually hard to keep track of them as they're coming in faster than I can answer them. What is the main purpose for changing the host to Debian? Purpose, I guess there's no, one of the purposes is that the way that Red Hat changed the release cycle for CentOS 8 was a problem for us. So in the past, CentOS did a regular periodic full releases as opposed to a running release type system. And that worked well for a project that was ISO based. Once they abandoned that system, then there was no clear advantage to use CentOS versus another system like Debian. And as Debian is the far more popular of the two, and there was generally more support in the world for Debian and Debian systems for sourcing consultants, employees, that sort of thing, as well as overwhelming community requests that we support Debian officially. We bit the bullet, abandoned a considerable amount of effort that was put into supporting the Red Hat 8, or what we're probably going to use Rocky, and started from scratch. That did delay the release of FreePBX 17 by a good half year, but we are now seeing the results of that today. So while we are well behind where we really would like to be, I think the end result is more appreciated by most.
Agreed.
Another question from Patrick, RC1 not ready for production. We're waiting for GA, that's confirmed. I will say that it's decent. It's certainly ready for testing and for reporting any issues you see. There is a lot of code, and there are a lot of different ways of configuring FreePBX, and we can only test so much via automated testing and manually point and click. So we rely very heavily on the experiences and reports of users in the beta phase. So this is nice. We can continue on with the questions since I don't appear to have any end of them, and we do have a little bit more time. Anthony is asking, double check, we have to do a fresh install and then take a backup of the current and restore to the new version. Correct. Yes, that is correct, Anthony. Let me do a reboot. Well, and then I'll go back to the questions again. RC1, recommended version of Debian is 12, as pointed out. That also shows in the installation instructions that you'll find in the wiki and on GitHub. That question was from Philip. Does Debian set the Node.js version? If they update it, would there be an update? So that's a question from Mattis. To be perfectly honest, I don't know if the FreePBX project controls the Node.js version or if the upstream does. I can get back to you on that one. I'll try to reply back. But in either case, the point is that the current system runs a considerably newer version than what you see in previous distros. Comment from Ken, who prefers the current proposed system, separate OS and FreePBX installed by script is better. Agreed, Ken, though it does add a really minuscule amount of work, which some people who are not overly familiar with command line may find daunting at first. It really is only 3 or 4 commands, and then you're good to go. And the end result is a system that's installable on a far broader range of hardware and VM than what is currently possible using ISOs. Question from Burl. So the standard Debian update commands will work for updating asterisk, etc. Yes, that is true. Apt update and app upgrade are standard commands, so it will update the base OS. And then, of course, the FW console commands that you're familiar with going forward will continue to work for updating the FreePBX modules and system. Question about commercial modules. Are they going to be fully compatible with this type of installation? That is yes. The entire purpose of FreePBX 17 is to provide an in-place replacement for 16, including support for commercial modules. Does the new install have purpose-built firewall? Yes. So I presume you're talking about the FreePBX firewall module. The FreePBX firewall still exists as it always has the same user inputs, and manipulates the various OS services behind the scenes via the GUI. Question from Taylor: will automatic conversion to PJSIP compensate for standardizing ports? Migrate an existing deployment to a mix of ChanSIP on 5060 and 5160. I say that's an awful lot to ask for that, and I'm going to say no. If you are restoring a backup from a system that has both SIP drivers installed and enabled, and both, of course, have to exist on separate ports, the resulting restore will have everything on PJSIP using a single port. So you would have to actually touch your endpoints in some way, reprovision or reconfigure them to use any updated ports in that system setup. I've gotten to the top of the list, but I have a vague sense that I've skipped a lot of questions here. This seems like a pretty good spot to race along, though. If we just scroll back here on my on this, I think we'll probably see, I forget the start time was. We started at 15 something and ended up at 15:41. I can get to the beginning. It might have scrolled off. No, it didn't. So we started at 15:23. So it took roughly 20 minutes. This is an extremely low spec system on Vultr, a few dollars a month. So that I consider is a reasonable time. The end result is a system that you can see, asterisk 21.3.1. We have FW console, MA list, grep framework, and we'll probably see that we're running the most recent version of FreePBX framework as 17.0.16. Upgrade all should show no pending updates. Is one of the things that the script does, is it grabs the most current stable version of all the FreePBX modules, and I would expect apt update should probably result. I guess this would depend on how long it's been since the no pending OS upgrades either. So this system is basically ready to go as far as a fresh install goes. So let's FW console MOTD, message of the day, grab that IP address. We should be able to browse to that address, and we should get the initial setup here for, so let me just quickly populate these. This will take a few occasions. I'll log in for the first time. I am going to skip all this stuff so we can quickly get through with the demo. But of course, if you're doing this at home, you're going to want to very carefully review all this so that you can don't miss out on any exciting opportunities in that regard. I'm going to continue with English. I'm going to abort the firewall setup, but obviously, and in the interest of time, that expediency is necessary, but you certainly do not want to abort the firewall setup. So this is what I can expect to see here for this. And what I would like to do is to go to admin and back up and restore. Oh, maybe before we do that, let's shoot back to the slide so we can go through the next section, Mike.
Share those up here. Just one second. There we are.
All right, so we finished with that one. If we bounce to the next, I think we should get a divider saying to showing and restoring a backup. So yeah, so there is the official wiki page for backup and restore. If you browse to wiki.freepbx.org and then search for backup and restore, you should end up with this page. And my plan here is to walk through two basic methods of restoring a backup. How to use the admin GUI and how to use the bash prompt. So as I started to do, if I grab this again, I'll go to share and back to Firefox here. So on a fresh system with nothing here, we could just quickly prove that, oh, actually, I don't plan to actually do a restore on this because the restore tarball I have is enormous. It will take too long to upload, but I'll just walk through the process of going to restore. I want to choose a backup file, and I have one here, and I can hit open. And you'll see here that the file is a fraction of a gigabyte. So that upload will take quite a little while. While that happens, I have another system that I set up previously. Unfortunately, what I did not do is set up. So in the previous one, I did the upload. On this one, I am going to instead use the command line because I'm pretty sure that this one is talk 17, and that one will be another window. All right, so on this one, we have no extension set up. It should be a plain, fresh system. And the one I want to use for that is black. So we have cd/tmp. I think I've there it is, FreePBX 16 full backup. So one of the nice things you can do with FreePBX 16 or 16 is with FreePBX versions newer than 15 is restore a backup directly from the command line. So I've used SFTP to upload a tarball that I've taken off of a production system running FreePBX 16, and I've uploaded it to the temp folder on this system. And I can do FW console backup, and I can get the instructions for how to do that. You want to run a restore FW console backup -- restore, and then I need a path to the restore, which is /tmp /freepbx 16 backup, and I should be able to hit enter. And I didn't put a space in here, so there's, and then we can get a full restore directly from the command line. In cases where there is an issue with using the GUI, this is an excellent means of doing a restore. This is a fun thing to see. So in case you can't read the text, it's telling me, attention, the backup file contains legacy CentOS extensions or trunks, which are not compatible with *21. You have the option to proceed, in which case these legacy extensions or trunks will be converted to PJSIP. Alternatively, you can cancel the restore process, downgrade the * version, and then attempt to restore your backup. So I'm going to choose continue. And I would expect this backup to race along here. Unfortunately, that again will take quite a little while. So maybe we'll come back to that screen. Let us look at the GUI restore that I kicked off a little earlier. It's still going. So that leaves us with a few minutes to kill. So why don't we investigate our questions again? My goodness, I have to scroll way back. Question from Rudy, only Debian 12 or 12.5 also? Yeah, that's my sloppy shorthand. So the current version of Debian 12 branch is what we're supporting. And so I believe that's 12.5 today. At some future point, it'll be a different number, but the expectation is the script will run on 12. Question from Mattis about the Node ARI client will still work. Have no information on that, but there's been no fundamental changes to go to FreePBX 17 other than asterisk version 21. So if the Node ARI client works with 21, then I would expect it to work on FreePBX 17. What will the installation behave like on FreePBX appliances? This is a question from Chris. Will the root user be enabled? That's TBD at this point. We have only just now started our QA process for PBExact. And one of those, of course, is ensuring that that works properly on all the Sangoma appliances. So if there are any departures from installing version 17 that apply specifically to Sangoma appliances, that's the type of thing we will document independently on the wiki somewhere. Do you have a script that can validate and install that can be run after a compromise? There is an FW console command called FW console space validate that looks for any known signatures of a compromise and alerts you and can give you the possibility of cleaning them. But generally, the advice that is most commonly offered is, depending on the type of compromise, of course, is that you don't try to clean up. You just start from scratch, restore a backup, and move on from a compromised system in that regard. Someone else pointing out that there's a typo on the slides. Again, yes, it is PJSIP is fully supported for trunks and extensions on 17, notwithstanding what I previously shared on a slide. Kevin's asking with dependencies and updates be updated regularly. So essentially, yes, most of the FreePBX 17 is coming upstream from Debian. So when they publish updates, they will show up on your system. The FreePBX specific services are managed independently by FreePBX engineering, and they will be released and published on a schedule that suits us independently of Debian. Powell is asking if there are any converter where I convert SIP to PJSIP on FreePBX 16, and yes, there is. It's detailed in a blog post going back a year, 2 years or so at this point, and it's also in the wiki. I can't remember the command to do it, but if you can't find it in a search, you can drop into the FreePBX forum. That script converter only converts extensions, not trunks. So that's something to be aware of. But yes, there are tools available in FreePBX 16 to convert CHAN-SIP extensions. Someone else asking, we have an install on Sangoma Linux 7. Do we need to back up and restore to 7 to move to 17? So that is yes, you do. That was from Dustin. Someone asking about dimensioning RAM processor. Sorry, I can't assist with that, Greg. There's too much to get into for a webinar type thing. But again, if you want to open a conversation in the FreePBX forum, I'll watch out for that. Question from Lies. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Any plan for a sysadmin module? The FreePBX 17 system fully supports the sysadmin module at present. Though I say fully, the module works. There are a couple features that have still not completely got up and running on the FreePBX 17 sysadmin module, but generally it's up and running and working. Question from Mauricio about the current SIP trunks. What it does, the built-in converter tool, what issues can we expect? I'd say that the converter tool is expected to convert extensions very neatly. I would not expect any issues there. It is brand new for SIP trunks. And as I said, there is much variation, infinite variation for SIP trunk settings. And so the converter will do a good start for you to set up your trunks using CHAN PJSIP. Another possibility, of course, is to contact whatever documentation your SIP provider has for PJSIP, should they have any, and follow those just to see what's available as far as current docs go. And you can always open a FreePBX forum thread to discuss your specific trunk provider. So the question is, what can we expect? I guess if we knew what to expect, then it's the type of thing we would have coded into the converter for to handle. But essentially, it just sort of dumbly goes through the common CHAN-SIP settings that are set in the text user fields for CHAN-SIP, and pulls those out one by one and sets the corresponding CHAN PJSIP SIP setting for them. Keep losing my place. Dominic, with the current issues surrounding security and underlying API access, has been a change to the API methodology with the move to Debian to account for these security needs. I don't fully understand the question, but the answer is no. There's been no major changes with the way the API port bindings work, which I believe is what the question is asking. So yeah, you want to lock down access to the more sensitive Apache web ports on the system, including the API. Mark is asking, do I need to purchase another system admin module for the backup? Say if you run two systems independently with separate deployment IDs, then the licensing for each system is handled separately and independently. Two systems means two module purchases for sysadmin. Peter is asking, going forward, will future upgrades of FreePBX require a reinstall? This will eat through hardware resets if this is the case. So there's two questions here. I'll address the second first, is with regard to hardware resets, we're trying to, or not trying, we are phasing in some means of ensuring that people moving to 17 will get a hardware reset, whether they've used them all or not. And going forward, the expectation is with the move to Debian, the Debian project actually provides good tools for moving major versions. So our expectation is that going forward, we'll be able to leverage those tools and do major updates in place instead of relying on a reinstall and restore from backup. That is another clear advantage to moving away from CentOS, who generally does not provide any tools for upgrading in place. I see my backup is finished for a while here. Let me just quickly race over to the GUI. So this is the GUI that I did this command line restore on. If we go to dashboard, we should be able to see that now we have a jump in trunks and users. So we went from 0 users to 15 and 0 trunks to 2. If I browse to my trunks, of course, you only have my word for this. I don't recall if if I don't believe any of these trunks were set up initially as ChanSIP. So there's nothing here that shows indication that they're auto-converted. But I do know that on that system that we restored from, looking in the wrong menu, under extensions, the extensions menu is moved to connectivity where it belongs. But old habits die hard. I still find myself looking at applications for it. All of these old extensions and the previous system were all set up as ChanSIP, and they were all converted to PJSIP automatically as part of the restore process. We also see some inbound routes, but which I won't browse to because you'll just take my word for it that they exist. This is a production system. I don't feel the need to share my DIDs to the world. This is the other GUI, the 17 system where I began the 16 full restore from 16 using the GUI method. It's at this point we get a quick summary of all the different modules. Up at the top here, we could see here that the current version of Asterisk does not support ChanSIP. So we are give the option to run the restore or to cancel at this point. Running a restore will overwrite current data. If I didn't say that already, that's absolutely the case. Running a restore will naturally disturb whatever the existing configuration is system-wide. And there's a bunch of systems here. And at this point, I could hit the run restore, but I'm just going to not do that so that I have a fresh system should I need it going forward. So the end result is I have a fresh installed FreePBX 17 system here on this window with no config. And this is the one that we did the config for on the restore from the command line. That's, I think, pretty much the end of the content portion of this webinar. What I haven't done is get through a lot of the questions. So why don't you take over, Mike, as far as the slides go? I think the final remaining slides involve, I can't quite recall at this point. Oh, yes, there was a quick slide on how to get involved.
Are we going to take a couple more questions here, or is that the plan?
Hang on, I need a drink of water, so I'm going to mute myself for a second. But if you want to just quickly review the next slide,
Sure
to
thing.
how to get involved, and then I'll wrap up what questions I can once I get organized.
Happy to do just that. So FreePBX is a community, right? And together we are stronger. This is our request. Test FreePBX 17. As Lauren stated, it's pretty inexpensive to test it on any of the cloud hosting environments that are out there. Lauren's example used Vultr, plenty of options for that. Leverage the GitHub website. Any issues, if you see something, say something. Our team is standing by to make sure that FreePBX 17 is not only the most flexible version of FreePBX, but also the most affordable. And that's going to come from feedback and customer community feedback. Lauren touched on it a couple times here in his presentation, but if you have something, similar to a specific carrier trunk config, chances are others in the community may be using that as well. This provides, just what open source, is and does. It gives us the ability to collaborate and make sure that things are working the way that you need them to. So continue to support FreePBX by getting involved in the community. And then lastly, join us on GitHub. If you have the ability to make a change from a code reference perspective, jump in. We're here to accept you into the group and work with you. So thank you very much. Lauren, have you made it back yet?
Yeah, I got my voice back here.
That's good.
Excellent.
Lauren,
Um,
while you are answering the questions, I'm just gonna launch a quick poll. I saw some questions that were being asked about people wanting to upgrade their existing Sangoma appliances. So, like, if you have questions like these or other sales related or any other kind of questions, you can just mark yes. I'm just gonna launch the poll right now, and we'll reach out to you after this webinar.
I'm
And
going
Lauren,
back. Sure, go ahead, Mike.
no, I was going to say we can also, scan through if we miss any questions. There are so many questions in there, and we were answering them in line as well as Lauren answering them. So, Lauren, if I could get a commit from you, we'll quickly review that, and if we have some additional questions that maybe we missed, we can jump back in and share those in the response as well.
Okay.
Great.
Running very quickly now here, back through some questions that I appear to have missed. An early one from Kirk asking if he can restore Elastic's PBX 2.5. That version number doesn't suggest anything specific to me. If Elastic's 2.5 is based on FreePBX 2.9 or newer, and it has the FreePBX backup module as part of the install, or you can get it, then you may be able to generate a tarball, a backup tarball on that system that's restorable. If all of those conditions are not true, then you'll probably have to bring up two browser windows side by side and copy and paste.
Nice to hear the Elastics reference. Alvita, she's an open source OG as well, and she came from that project. So always nice.
That's right. We still
As
regularly
others.
see references. Should also note that if there's any means of getting an export lists of extension numbers and DIDs for inbound routes and outbound routes and things like that, you can use, if you can get those into a CSV format, then you can bulk import them into FreePBX as opposed to creating them one by one. A question from Adam, does the shell script actively download software from the internet? Yes, it does. The shell is basically does everything via download. So I think the corollary to that would be that is there an offline installer? And no, there is not. FreePBX does not currently support any means of installing or licensing a system offline. Dave is asking if he moves the deployment ID to 17, if you're able to move back to 16 again, and I will say yes. There is nothing preventing that other than the limited number of deployment self-serve moves that we provide. So if you've exhausted them, then you would want to contact support to ask for a reset so you can move back again.
And also, if you're joining this call today from the channel partner program, be sure to reach out to your rep in that group. Also, for speedy response, my team is available. If you log into your Sangoma portal account, on the top right, you'll see who your direct associated rep is. It'll have their direct call there, and also a number into the FreePBX sales team. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because we can help you with those resets as well. Feel free to reach out to those teams too.
Philip is asking if a full install or a minimal compact version is required for Debian. We I know that our documentation says full install, but if you start with a minimal install and you find that there are packages missing, then you can document that in a issue ticket on GitHub saying, starting with the minimal install, you're missing package XYZ, and then we can specifically add those to the install script to check and ensure they're present. But officially, we support a full install starting point of Debian. Is support for other Debian flavors going to be supported? Question from Taylor. Main example, Ubuntu. Say not officially, but we have happily incorporated suggestions from Ubuntu users in the install script to support that. So the official answer is no. We support a clean Debian system, but anything that is Debian-like, if there's anything specific required to make that install work, that obviously doesn't interfere with the supported install, we'll incorporate that as well. Install. Standard commands work. I've answered some of these already. Will *21, so this is a question from Simon, *21, does it still support DADI cards and FXO cards? And the question is yes, of course, absolutely. Asterisk does support it. FreePBX has the DADI config module as well. Starting in 17, the DADI support is not set up and installed by default. So there is an install time option you can add to do that, or after the fact, you can run a script to install DADI. And so we're seeing that fewer and fewer of our installed base uses DADI hardware. And so the decision was made to leave it uninstalled by default, as the vast majority of our user base is better supported that way. But the quick question is, yes, FreePBX 17 will support DADI and FXO. And of course, any issues there, please escalate those to GitHub. This question, answered that one already. Is there a workflow we should follow? Question from Jared. Workflow to follow, like fresh install, restore, unlock, re-register for commercial modules. Either of those should work, Jared, but I think it's probably best to register first, then do the restore, although it should work in either direction. The caveat, of course, is the auto conversion for trunks and things like that. So it might be better to, if you're relying on the auto conversion, to ensure your trunks and everything are up and running and working as expected, and only then move your deployment ID over so that your licensing follows. But either works fine, or should work fine. I abandoned CentOS due to their shenanigans. Yes, Kevin, I think that puts things rather in worded in a way that kind of aligns with our project objectives as well, but maybe a little more succinctly. A question from Matthew: if you install Debian at FreePBX, import 14 back up into 17, this path is supported. I guess this is a comment, not a question, but I'm confirming, yes, that is supported path. So there's a comment here from Carlos. This means commercial modules will be available for Raspberry Pi installations. That I cannot answer right now today. I don't believe it is possible at the moment. Although there are no technical reasons why it shouldn't work. As far as I'm aware, the projects and services that FreePBX relies on specifically for commercial modules are probably installable on a Pi or any ARM-based system, but we are not currently testing for that, and I can't comment whether or not it would work. It's certainly a project possibility now. So prior to this move to Debian and prior to the move away from Zendesk, there were technical reasons why we didn't support Raspberry Pi. Now those reasons are gone, so it's possible we may support that in the future. Another comment in support of using Debian. Ken is a request. Can I get you to add an option to be able to set the PBX name also? Can you dash off an email with that request, Ken, so it doesn't get lost to the mix? I think that might possibly be possible now via the command line. So Ken's looking for a supported method of adding the PBX name via command line. And I think I'm saying with sort of a 50% certainty that that may be possible currently using the FW console setting. I just need to find the appropriate setting to tweak in that case.
Just to jump in there quickly one more time, we still have the poll up. If you would like to have sales contact you, just let us know. One of the other things I did want to mention for that group, if you've come to this webinar today as a person that's looking to, be a reseller or a member of our partner program, I'd use that link up there as well for yes. But feel free to jump into that discussion and let us know what you think there on the poll.
Question from Mike: will the demo cover how to prevent tonguing issues during a test restore of a production FreePBX? I'm not finding that in the wiki, and so I could have done that, but it is actually pretty straightforward. Post restore, before you press the apply config and apply any changes, if you're restoring from a backup of a production system that remains in production, then you do not want trunks to the same system. You don't want the same trunks active on both systems simultaneously. And so you would go into the trunks screen under connectivity and edit them one by one and disable all of them before you press the apply config. And that will ensure that none of the trunks register and will conflict with what you're using in production. It's a pretty straightforward process. And in the interest of time, I won't go through that via the shared screen, but it is one of the options that come up when you edit your trunks directly in the GUI. Question from Paulo, can you set up MFA for the login into the admin console? Is it possible to use some hardware MFA like YubiKey? There is a paid commercial module for MFA for a FreePBX. It's licensed annually, and if you enable it, you pay per PBX administrator, and it unlocks all of your users for the UCP. So yes, you can enable MFA. You can get that the second factor via email or via an authentication app on mobile. And is it possible to use a hardware like YubiKey? I'm going to say that's not currently supported at the moment, but it's entirely possible that someone somewhere has that set up. I'll follow up if that answer is more complex than that, but I'm thinking it's not supported. Question from Taylor, will the GI prompt ChanSIP option to convert to PJSIP on restore like the terminal presented? Yes, it does. It doesn't actually prompt to convert. You'll get the option to proceed or not. And if you do proceed, it will auto convert for you. But yep, you get the same option in either, whether GUI or command line. Another question asking if we plan to publish an ISO. No current plans, but it's entirely possible we may produce one for internal purposes, if for no other reason. And if we do, we may share that. Officially, the project only is supported via a script on a fresh Debian install. Someone asking about voicemail transcription that involves also on the roadmap. We'll see that announced in the next short time frame. That's a new commercial module announcement. So I'm just basically teasing it at this point, but it's coming. Question from Michael, App Armor, is it an issue? I don't know what App Armor is. So maybe, I don't know, sorry. There's someone saying bonjour to Elvita. You have a fan out there in Nantes, I think that's where Franck is. So. How do you prevent trunking during test restore? I covered that one. OS updates are only from the command line, not from the GUI. So that, yes, as we sit here today, Jason, that is the case. If you need OS level updates, app update and app upgrade are the supported Debian commands to do that with. Ultimately, those will be incorporated in the GUI in sysadmin and or in module admin under the system tab. But as we sit here today, an RC1 release does not currently support that in the GUI. Arthur is asking where to buy modules. Portal.sangoma.com. You log in with your portal ID and there's a button to go to the store in the upper right there. You can buy whatever commercial modules you want for FreePBX as well as hardware. Lots of stuff there available, including free trials for modules. You can just do the little search box in the portal store for trial, and you'll see a number of options there for some time limited free trials. Go, Mike. Yeah.
I'd also like to note that many purchases can be made right directly in the FreePBX GUI. If you browse to a module that's unavailable, you'll see that there's a buy now link, and then under the module admin, you can purchase modules or review wiki documentation or links to that in the module admin itself.
We're getting very close to the end of our window here. There's a question from Philip about TFTP provisioning. What is the best way to handle TFTP provisioning? The best way is to move to some other means of provisioning, Philip. But if you must, then there are no changes whatever between any recent version of FreePBX and FreePBX 17 as far as TFTP goes. You can enable TFTP in sysadmin and then set up your TFTP files in TFTP boot or use the commercial EPM module for that as well. Again, there are better options in the 21st century than TFTP, but some endpoints demand it. Lots of questions about the recordings. You can watch social media. It will be going out, same as any other webinar recording. Commercial modules exclusively for SNG7 and Debian 12 or unlocked for any OS. And so this is a question from Frank. If you are able to use the supported Debian install script and it completes and the end result is a full complete install, regardless of what system you started with, then I would expect commercial modules to work. There may be some minor caveats to that, but it is the type of thing that we can evaluate on a case-by-case basis. So if you're not starting with a clean Debian 12.x install, then the install does proceed and finish, then yeah, give the commercial modules a try. And if they're not working, we'll happily accept your comments and we'll determine whether it's something we want to support or not. I get the sense that I've answered many things. Oh, there's a question, comment here from Krista, thank you, who asked about the FreePBX 16 script in order to convert CentOS extensions to PJSIP, and the command is fw console space convert digit to PJS. I'll just paste that into the comment section in case that person is still listening. You can get the answer there. Send message to everyone. Let's stop there. There is so many questions that came in. I probably missed some. So when we distribute the recording, we'll come up with some means of answering those final questions, and we'll go from there.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much,
Thank you,
Lauren. This
Lauren.
was a very informative session. We really appreciate it.
I sacrificed my voice.
Nothing a little water couldn't
For a good
solve.
cause.
Absolutely, for a good cause. So just, one last request again, get involved. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to hit up Tango. That email address is tango@sangoma.com. Thank you once again for joining us. This is Mike White, Lauren Gates, Elvita, and Jenny signing off.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day. Bye.
Thank you.